I went to Ascension Island on an adventure training expedition over the half term. So, anyone here know where Ascension Island is?
No.
Okay, cool. So, this is my stuff as well. This is Ascension Island here. Britain's up here, obviously. The main purpose of Ascension Island, what it was used for in terms of RAF, was during the Falklands War. It's nicely positioned halfway between Britain and the Falklands, and to fly from Britain to the Falklands takes too much fuel for the aircraft to be able to hold, so it's basically a refuel post. They still use it now to stop off on the way to the Falklands, although they can probably fit the amount of fuel in, but they still use it now. So this is where the Ascension Island is. So the equator is just along here, and it's on the mid-Atlantic ridge, so it's a volcanic island basically. So this is a map of the actual island itself. So Travelers Hill here is the RAF accommodation, that's where we were staying. This is Wide Awake Airfield, so this is the airfield, and the capital is Georgetown, but I wouldn't say it was bigger than a tiny village, so that's the island there. So day one, we were flying from RAF Brize Norton. Our flight actually got delayed by 24 hours. Which meant that instead of going on Wednesday evening, we went on Thursday evening, which was well annoying. But there wasn't really anything we could do about it, because the weather in the Falklands was bad, which meant that all the flights might get a knock-on delay. We flew on a Voyager, which is an Airbus 330, and it's technically a chartered flight by a company called Air Tanker, who run it, but it goes from RAF Brize Norton. We were stuck in Brize Norton from 7:15, and our flight didn't leave till 11 o'clock. And it's the most boring airport you've ever been to. It's literally just a massive room. You go through security, you don't really ask you any questions, you take whatever through really. And then you sit in another massive room, all there is one football table, that's the clock, which we kept looking at it and it wasn't moving, it's because the clock was broken, so we thought time was going. Anyway, that's a bit of, you can sort of see inside the plane there. So it was like a normal plane, there was TVs and films and stuff. So the flight itself actually takes about 8 hours, 40 minutes, so it's quite a long flight. So it was a night flight, we left at 11, and by the time we landed, because we got slightly delayed, we landed at about 7:45 in the morning. Ascension Island has the same time zone as us, so they're on GMT as well as us, because they're basically straight down from where England are. So before we left the plane, we were able to go and look at the flight deck. The air cadets has its privileges. So we went and chatted with the captain and stuff on the flight deck, which is pretty cool. This is the plane we went on at the airport. This here is our accommodation, so it's basically really basic accommodation because it's transit accommodation. So because most people are flying from Britain to the Falklands, when flights get delayed, planes often get stuck on Ascension Island, which means that you can have a plane of up to 200 people stuck on Ascension, so everyone will go and stay here. So the accommodation itself is actually pretty basic, but it was alright. So we got there. This is our accommodation here, so this was our block here, which we're in, one of the mountains. When we arrived, we got straight into our uniform, which was the only time we wore our uniform for the whole trip. So we were only actually in uniform for about 3 hours, as it turned out. And we had our briefing, that was where the photo was taken at the start. So we had our briefing from Wing Commander Bauer, who used to be our Wing Commander and is now the regional OC for adventure training, so he organised the whole trip. And we had a briefing for him, and then we went for our briefing from the OC Ops, which is this guy here, Flight Lieutenant, who was in charge of the flight handling and operations in Ascension. So he gave us a tour of the airfield. There's not really much to see. Literally, this is the airhead here, like this, covered in like mountains which look like this. It's like a bizarre place. So he gave us a tour, which he basically just read off Wikipedia, so it was very exciting. But the airport itself is pretty interesting. Planes always fly into a headwind. There's a 99.9% chance of them flying into a headwind, which means good for their landing. They actually share, the US base is also on Ascension. They technically own the Wide Awake Airfield, but the RAF run it. It's a bit of a complicated system. So we did some chilling, and then we went to the pool. So there's 3 pools on the island, one in Travelers Hill, which is really gross, but this one's up in Two Boats. So Two Boats is one of the settlements on the island. So it's where the school is and stuff like that. So we went to the pool in Two Boats, which is a free pool, so we spent all the afternoon there chilling out, relaxing like this here. This is just outside the mess, so you have to walk up the hill to the mess, and this is what the landscape is like. So some places it's really ashy rock, like at the airfield, and then here it's like palm trees and greenness. It's really random. So on our second day there, but technically our third day, was our main sort of trekking day. All the time we were there, we had 3 Ford Fiestas. They were the only cars which were available for us to hire on the island. Considering that there was 17 of us, 3 Ford Fiestas, that's 5 people per car. We had to do loads of shunts across the island, which meant that we often were in 2 separate groups to get people places, which is a bit of a pain. But that's what we were in. So the first walk we did was the Weather Post and Devil's Cauldron walk. On the island they have walks which are letterbox walks, and at the end of each walk, you'll see a picture in a minute, there's a letterbox which has like a visitor's book in it, and you can collect stamps from the letterbox. So for all the walks you do, you can collect stamps from each of the letterbox, which is pretty cool. The island is full of land crabs, which they're worried about going extinct, but that doesn't really show you how big they are, but the land crabs, they're literally about this big, and they just scuttle around everywhere, so they're pretty huge. This sort of shows the variety in the weather, because there's nothing, the nearest land to Ascension is 600 miles away. All the clouds cling to Green Mountain, which is the highest peak. So that's Green Mountain you can see here, and it was really cloudy. So when we started off this day, it was really cloudy, like overcast, but it was still really hot, so it's kind of weird weather. This is where I walked, so our car was parked around here, and we did a big walk around here, down here, up here, down here, around here, then we walked back down here. So the first place we saw was Cricket Valley, which I haven't got a picture of. We walked around Cricket Valley, and this is the Devil's Cauldron. So the picture doesn't really give you a sense of the scale, but it's basically a massive, it was a volcano, but it's just like a massive crater in the ground, like absolutely huge. The first letterbox was right inside it. So this is the Devil Cauldron here, another picture, and the letterbox was right inside it. So we had to basically scramble down inside it, which was really fun. And then the walk itself, you're going to come back out and go all the way around the ridge, around here. But standing here, it was so windy you can actually stand up, you would get blown over. So it was deemed to be unsafe to walk around the top. This is the letterbox here, you can just see it in here, so which had the stamps and stuff in, and this is all the second group, so I wasn't in this group, I was in the first group. Wing Commander here, the voice here. The Wing Commander and his group decided that instead of walking back out the semi-safe way across here, they were going to scramble up here. The rock was really dangerous, so when they were walking up, one cadet went to grab a rock and it just fell off in his hand. The Wing Commander almost killed himself. No joke, he fell off a rock and people actually thought he killed himself. He hadn't, he was alive, so it's fine. This is Spy's Rock, so this is just off the island, you can see it just up here. This is where all the birds live, so there's loads and loads of birds on the island, and they all live on that tiny little rock, so you can't really see, but it's covered in birds. So we kept walking up to the weather post, so this is from the top of the weather post, and basically at the top is just a tiny box with a weather vane, but it has another stamp at the top. So this here, from the top of the weather post, this is technically the path down. This shows you quite well. Literally, you walk down here, it's basically a drop like this. So we were scrambling down there. This doesn't really give you a sense of scale, but we walked all the way across here. If any of you know who Flight of Lieutenant Cox is, he was a bit like Bambi. Considering centre of gravity's up here, he almost fell over several times. It's pretty funny. And then we walked across this path here, back up past the NASA station. So they have a station there, don't really know what it does, radar, stuff like that, but we'll pass there. And this isn't, you can't really see it properly, but it was really dusty, so these are our dust tan lines, which shows you how much dust there was like, just walking normally. On the way back down, the car set on fire. The Wing Commander has possibly the worst driving I've ever witnessed in my life. It's quite terrifying. But the whole car set on fire, so which meant that we were down to 2 cars for 17 people for the rest of the week, which was a bit of carnage. So we then went back to Travis Hill, went up to the Naffy for dinner. We had all our meals at the Naffy, breakfast, lunch and dinner, all cooked food, really good food. And it was like, I don't know if any of you have been in camp before, but you went rationed to having like 1 piece of bacon. It was like literally help yourself, so it was brilliant food. And then we were doing a wild camp that night, which meant that we were staying at Travis Hill. We decided to stay in a place called Comfortless Cove. Basically, Comfortless Cove is, I don't have any pictures because it was dark when we got there, but it's a tiny cove, and it's where when the ships used to come in the 18th and 19th century, all their men who were dying of yellow fever, they would kick off the ship into this cove to basically die. So just behind the cove at the back of the beach is Bonita Cemetery, which is named after the ships which came in. So it's a cemetery full of graves, so this is where we decided to wild camp. Great idea. So that's where all the people were left, and it's like in a big pit, and the story goes that if that's basically where they were left to die of yellow fever, and sometimes the locals would take pity on them and like chuck food into them, but it's pretty grim. So this is us on the beach. The tide's coming in quite fast, so everyone decided to sleep on the beach except for me and one of the other girls and all the staff. We decided to sleep on the footpath because half of them almost got washed away halfway through the night. We did some stargazing, and honestly, I don't think I've ever seen so many stars in my whole life. There's loads of stars, there's loads of shooting stars, and that was like honestly amazing to see that because there's no air pollution. It was honestly like amazing. The wild camp was not such a good idea. Before we were about to go to sleep, there was cockroaches scuttling across us, which was really gross. And then I woke up in the middle of the night and there was a rat hanging out the tree next to me, which was even grosser. So it was pretty grim, but like the stars were cool. Staying for the stars was great, but wild camping was so good. We then stayed there till about 5:30 in the morning, and we got up really early to go and see the turtles. So we got up for dawn and headed down to Long Beach, which is the main turtle nesting beach. These are green turtles which swim over and migrate from Brazil to come and nest and lay their eggs in the sand in Ascension. So as you can see here, the beach was literally full of like massive potholes, which are the holes which the turtles make. So this is the turtle. When we got there, because it was getting to dawn, there was only a few turtles which were left, and these are the tracks which they make as they go back out to sea. So after they've laid their eggs, they make these like massive tracks to go back out to sea. They can only take about 3 movements at a time, so they have to stop and have a break because it's so much like hard work. And it's hard to show you like how big they are, but literally they're absolutely massive, like absolutely huge. And they said that in one night, just in this one beach alone, there's up to 400 to 500 turtles which come into nest and lay their eggs, so it's pretty amazing. When we did that, we went back and had showers and stuff like that, and then we climbed up Green Mountain. Green Mountain is the tallest peak of the island, and the terrain there is once again like totally different to anywhere else in the island. So for example here, if it's like this, you could have been in the Peak District, and you get to the top, and it's a whole bamboo forest. You can't actually see a view because you're in a bamboo forest. So it's really random. This here is the old Marines base, which was built there in the 18th century, late 18th, early 19th century, which was when they used it as like a garrison, I think, but that was the old Marine barracks, which was then turned into a pigsty, but it was like whilst we were there, it was just like a derelict building. This here is part of the mountain just the other side of where the barracks was, which they'd cemented over to collect water from, so the water would run down here and collect in the, there's like a big basin in the middle, so that looks like totally weird. This is us walking up the top, so this is just like a grass bit. This is like bamboo forest, and the last like 600 metres on the way to the top is basically totally duck boards. So you walk, it's like really slippery and slimy. This bit here looks like Forbidden Forest in Harry Potter, so it's like really cool. Bit of swag in the corner. So at the top they have this thing called the dew pond, which was a man-made pond which they built at the top to try and collect water. And tradition is that when you get to the top, in order to cool off from the long trek, you're meant to jump in it, but it's like the grossest water ever, so no one does that. They have what's called the dew pond run, which happens every year in Ascension, and it's a 7-mile run from Georgetown, which is the main town of the island, all the way up Green Mountain to the top, to the dew pond. This is the letterbox, which is at the top, so it's another letterbox walk. That's me, at the top of the letterbox. This is another picture of the Marine Barracks. So we did Green Mountain in the morning, we climbed up there in the morning, and then in the afternoon we went to the beach. So this is English Bay Beach, which was the nicest beach ever. It was so hot and sunny, great. So really white sand, blue water, clear water. On one side, and then the other side it's still full of radars and stuff like that, which is it's so weird. There's so many radars and wind turbines and stuff everywhere. It's pretty ugly. We did some snorkeling. Don't know if any of you know Squadron Leader Dix, but he bought 7 pairs of flippers and snorkels with him. So we did snorkeling, and there's these little black fish. All this here, this is fish. So that was pretty fun. And then in the evening we went on a turtle tour. So we went back to Long Beach. It's so funny. Totally put me off. So we went back to Long Beach to have a turtle tour with the conservationists. So these people go out there every summer to do conservation of the turtles. So we got there at about 9, and they were out on the beach trying to look for turtles for us to go and see. And it took them an hour and a half for them to find us a turtle, because the turtles were laying their eggs, but the sand was too dry. So they make these holes in the ground here to lay their eggs in, but they kept collapsing in because it was too dry, which meant it took ages for us to find a turtle who was actually nesting them. But when we went round, this is the turtle here, so this kind of shows you how big they are. They're literally huge. This is the eggs here. And when turtles lay their eggs, they go into a totally trance state. So there's a period of about 5 to 10 minutes where they're just in a trance. So we were all around them taking pictures and stuff with our flash, and they just didn't notice because they're totally out of it. And they lay up to 150 eggs, I think, in one go, in these little pits. And then when they're done, they knead the sand with their back flippers to aerate the sand to get lots of air in to cover the eggs back up. Because the eggs get preyed on by birds, so they have to cover them really well. But seeing a turtle that big was amazing, and one of the staff members said to be able to share such an intimate moment with that sounds really sad, but to be able to share such an intimate moment with a turtle like that and not in a zoo was honestly incredible. So on day 5 we did some conservation work. So we got the turtle tour and all of that. That was totally free, but in order to pay back, we said we'd do some conservation work for them the next day. So we went back up Green Mountain. So you've got the route to the top of Green Mountain, and then the whole way around it there's a path called Elliot's Path. So we did some work around there, and we turned up to some guy called Bite with long hair, and he had all these machetes. So we were basically doing path clearing, but using machetes, and his safety brief was, don't cut yourself, guys. He's from South Africa. It's don't cut yourself, don't swing at anyone else, and that was about it. It was help yourself to a machete. So it was pretty cool. So this is the dream team here. Us 3, we were pro path clearers. No joke, this is our beautiful work. You can see all the bamboo. So it takes you quite a while to get into the swing of it, to get to know it, but we spent 4.5 hours clearing paths. So 1 head jump. This is everyone here who did it. This day we only had 1 car because the wing commander had to brief all the staff on the base about cadets being there. So we had 1 car to get everyone up to Green Mountain. And the path up to Green Mountain is the steepest, bendiest path ever. So you can only have 3 people in the car at one time. So it took us about an hour and a half to get everyone up to Green Mountain. In the end, which was pretty annoying. But yeah, this is just pictures of path clearing with machetes. And so after we finished doing all that, we cleared a bit of Elliot's Path, and then instead of just going back, we walked all the way around it, which took about 45 minutes, so it didn't take that long. But you can walk all the way around it and you see the whole of the island, so it's pretty cool. So this here, there was a landslide a few days before, which meant that it was really hard to cross because it was just ashy sand, and it was weird terrain again. And this here is from Green Mountain. This shows you where we walked on the first day. So we parked back here in our car, walked all the way around here, down here, up here, down here. Devil's Cauldron is here. We went up to the top of the Weather's Post and then walked all the way down here. So it's quite cool. Along the way, there's loads of like tunnels through the side of the rock, which is pretty exciting. This is the letterbox on Elliot's path. This is the crab, which is blocking our way. But honestly, they're like huge and vicious. So we did that in the morning, and then in the afternoon we climbed up Lady Hill. Lady Hill was the one in the first picture in Traveller's Hill in the background. So this is Traveller's Hill here where we stayed. So this was our block just here. This was the mess, and this up here was the nappy. Sports field range was down here. So that's where we stayed. And on top of Lady Hill there's like a massive flagpole basically. So we attached our cadet ensign to it, which is this here, which was huge, like absolutely huge. So this is a bit of a bad panorama, but the ensign's here, and then further across there's this monument thing, pile of rocks, which loads of people have put like a shoe on, so it's really random. But that was at the top there. And when we were climbing this, there was no shade, and like the sun was like blisteringly hot, like so hot. And it was so like ashy and dirty, it was pretty grim. But this is everyone from the trip at the top, all the stuff here. This is Eastern Sector. East, yeah, get that? This is the cadets here. And this was us walking back down, so you can see Traveller's Hill in the background, and it's me, and that's us. Walking back down. But that was pretty cool to climb up there. Like, once again, the terrain there is totally different to being up Green Mountain in the morning, which was, like, not humid, but it was a humidity. Here was so dry, it was so windy at the top, but it was fun. On the next day, we were lucky enough to see the Commonwealth baton. So for the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, they've got a baton a bit like the Olympic torch, which is currently going around to all the Commonwealth countries in the world. And it was like a total coincidence that it was in Ascension Island whilst we were there. So that's me with the baton. And these were the two CEOs who were with the baton in front of the hill. There's like a big photographer guy there who's taking pictures and stuff. So that was pretty cool experience. And then because we were already in Georgetown at that point, we went round on the forts in Georgetown, which was here. So when Napoleon came to Ascension, they built all these forts on the island. So they're really cool. But it was really hot that day, and everyone was like really tired. And when they rediscovered the fort, so to speak, there's literally like thousands and thousands of bottles in there because they didn't really have any water. They literally all drank alcohol all the time. There was rows and rows and rows of rooms of bottles. This is in the Ascension Island Museum, which was a room about this big. But that's from the turtle shells. So at the beginning of the 19th century, 1900s even, people used to farm the turtles, use them for meat. So they would tip the turtles over, which would stop them from walking, put them into a pen and farm them, which is really gross. But that's the turtle shell which has been engraved. This is the church in Ascension Island. I don't know whether any of you know Flight of Chen Warburton, who's the OC of Crownfield Squadron, but she got married in this church a couple of years ago, which was pretty cool. So we went and reenacted her wedding. But again, the church is weird church. This is us in the church. And then this is our last day. So that evening was us flying home. So that's the sign for Ascension Island Base. And we turned up at the airport, which is like a tiny building, and there was a massive queue. It was taking so long. The X-ray machine had broken for the bags, so they were hand searching all the hand luggage, all the suitcases. So there was a massive queue, which was a bit of a nightmare. pretty cool. So we then sat in the airport. You have to be there at 6. The flight didn't leave till 11. So we sat around the airport for about 5 hours. But by the time we got through security, it was been like 7:30. This guy here, he was called Tourist because he always wore long socks and he had a massive camera and just took pictures of everything. So this is when the flight was coming in from the Falklands, the flight which we were getting on. He was standing on the table and everyone's like, it was just good. Bit judgy, but he was a tourist. This was our plane, Voyager again, and their way of like suitcase handling. You went to the desk in the bag, they put the bag out of a hatch inside of the wall, and then put the bag onto the thing. Like there was no like, it was totally like small scale airport. This was us walking to the plane. Then vital section, and then this is us arriving in Norton. This is in the thing, weapon collection desk. So you can tell you're in Norton. Before we landed, the pilot was like, oh yeah, there's a nice southwesterly breeze and a cool temperature of 3 degrees. We're like, what? We just come from 30 degrees, so that was pretty chilly to land there in the morning. So we landed at Bryce, and then that was our trip. So I can show you t-shirt. This shows you Ascension Island. That's where it is. You can see the latitude and that. They didn't really have a gift shop. They had t-shirts and things. Our boarding passes. This is the one. This is the colour it's meant to be. The one in Ascension's really faded, so the colours are really bad. And then in Ascension Island, they have their own kind of like money. So I don't know if you want to see it. You do. But they have like coins with like turtles and stuff like that, and donkeys, birds. And there's also Falklands currency, so that's a sheep on. So if you want to look at that, you can look at that.